Underway
Good morning, everyone.
here at the Pan Am Pool in Winnipeg. And the first dive to get it going is for Samuel Talbot from the Camo Diving Club. He will begin the event with an inward 2.5 pike position. Kaylee,
Dive
are you ready?
405B.
I am ready.
Yes, this is 405B.
Good start to the event. Samuel is a tall boy, so obviously the tricky part here is to get the feet past the tower without tipping the toes. Well done here. The legs keep rolling at the end here. You really have to keep those stomach muscles tight to make sure that doesn't happen.
Good start for him. I mean, we do have a few tall boys in this event, so when you do inward 2.5 pike, you really want to try and avoid the tower with your toes while still getting enough jump and rotation. So he managed that well. Needs a little bit more control on the bottom. Good start for him, though.
Aaron Ziver, the coach, paying attention.
61.6.
Here are the scores, 61.60 on the dive.
7.0, 7.5.
This is going to be a really fun event. I know every single person in this event can really shred their entries, really just disappear on the entries, so I'm looking forward to seeing some rips.
And when I mentioned earlier that it's the marquee event, it's always spectacular. Anywhere in the world, at any event, we're going to see some big dives, some big scores, and those ripped entries, which you just mentioned, obviously being so high up in the air, gives you an advantage to really disappear in the water. Here comes Claude-Olivier Lisée Coder, also with an inward 2.5 pike. Well done. I would have liked to see a little more speed on the rotation here, but well controlled, finds that vertical at the end.
I really like watching him dive. He's really, really beautiful in the air, and on every board that he does, on every dive, his positions are very, very precise and beautiful and elegant as well.
And being elegant is an aspect of diving that I love. I think throughout different countries, sometimes we see a lack of pointed toes, straight legs, and you're right, Claude Olivier just demonstrated exactly that. Ciro Maya now coming up from the Toronto Diving Academy. And his first dive will be a reverse 2.5 tuck position, 2.8 degree of difficulty.
Starting with a little bit of a lower degree of difficulty, generally a dive that people are comfortable with to start off in hopes of starting on a good note.
Well done. And the difficulty for him here is there's 10 meters to do those 2.5 rotations, so really has to be in control. Jumps way high in the air, and he's a fast spinner. So for sure in the near future, he's going to add a flip to this.
Yeah, he's a high jumper, fast spinner, so this dive, I can tell you, is very hard to do under pressure with a lot of adrenaline because there's so much control needed for it, but he manages really well the adrenaline and gets a pretty good first dive.
Luke Gertson coming up from the Dive Calgary Club. His first dive will be a back 1.5 somersault with 2.5 twists, 2.8 degree of difficulty.
Another dive that under adrenaline is sometimes hard to control. You don't want too much rotation.
Well, the less rotation there is to accomplish from 10 meters means you really have to dose yourself, which is done perfectly here.
Gorgeous. And like I said, the rip entries.
Absolutely perfect. We get to see the replay here.
Shout
So do you people at home.
Watchers
Beautifully
right
done.
Please
and when you see no splash on the replay,
share.
that means it was even better in person.
And just a wonderful twisting position with him as well. You know, the whole body is completely straight, completely tight, and that really helps when you're going in the water as well for that entry.
8.6
And the judges love this one. 8.5s for Luke Gertson to start off the event. Up next from the Camo Diving Club in Montreal, Arnaud Corbeil. His first dive will be an inward 3.5 somersaults. Tuck position.
405C.
3.2 degree of difficulty. Just a little bit missing at the end here.
I honestly really liked that dive up into the bottom. Moving a little bit backwards, I think. I really liked his distance from the platform, but it might be a little bit far for him, which makes it a little bit hard to stay tight on that entry with the stomach.
The farther back you jump from the tower on this dive, the
Got
harder it gets to
67.2.
get to that vertical point.
Arnold Corbeil.
67.20 for the start
Welcome to the 12 billion watchers
of
right
Arno's
now.
event.
Kabuhay.
Benjamin Tessier, also
Happy
from the
Sunday.
Camo Diving Club.
Comment
He'll
down below
also be
whichever
doing
part
an
of the world you
inward
are.
3.5 somersault tuck position.
407C with a 3.2 difficulty.
Oh, good start.
World Diving Championship will be
I see you
on
reacting
next
beside me here.
week, starting
little
February.
bit.
What was missing here for you, Kaylee?
I know he went a little bit short, I believe, in prelims, so I think he was really trying to fix that. He just over-rotated a little bit. He needs to look forward on that entry and really line up and just attack the water on that. So, unfortunately, not the best
70.4,
start for him.
7.5,
Not what he
6.5,
can do,
6.0.
but still a decent score
Good score.
overall. But
With 70.40 and not being his best, that means he's got a high level of diving at 18 years
Nathan
old.
Sambor Murray.
Bright future ahead of him, that is for sure. Nathan Zombor Murray now coming up. He will also
Star
be
of
doing
Canada.
an inward 3.5 somersault tuck position.
407C, 3.2 difficulty.
Oh, as promised.
I love that.
Oh, not much missing here. Great takeoff for Nathan. Tight tuck position, and he has to come out of that rotation so early. Piking out, finding, okay, I'm going to be very picky, maybe a slight degree short from the vertical, but that was an excellent dive.
That's very Nathan.
There's a 10. Perfect score right there. 9.5s for the rest of the judges. Monster start for this event. One more diver to go. 8 divers in this final, 6 rounds of dives, and Rylan Weens will also begin the event with an inward 3.5 somersaults.
407C, 3.2 difficulty for Rylan Wings.
Oh!
Great job.
Oh, I get really excited in these events.
Do you miss being up there doing it?
Not at all. It's great sitting down here. Oh my God.
That was gorgeous.
Rylan responds in full.
Oh, there we go.
We're hearing some big scores behind us here. There's not much to say about the dive, really. Great distance.
96.0.
Many 10s on this. Only 2 judges ended up not agreeing with 9s.
And this is what I mean about like having competition. When you hear the 10s, you hear the 9.5s, it makes you more hungry. You know you have to step up. So, you know, going after a dive like Nathan's is not
Nathan is in the
easy
second,
to be in
thank
Rylan's
you.
Absolutely
position.
not.
You want to
And
step up.
Rylan
You want to
Wings,
be as good as
96.0.
everybody else or better. So this is what I love about having competition.
And you're totally right. I remember some events where the previous diver right ahead of me would have an excellent performance. And I mean, we're only human. We know what just happened right before us, right?
We are now in the
Rylan
second
really
round of the
keeping his
dive.
composure and responding beautifully. All right, round 2 begins now. Samuel Talbot, he'll be doing a back 2.5 pike.
205B, 2.9 difficulty.
Well done. A little bit past the vertical, but no big
Yeah.
mistakes here.
It's a good dive for him. I know he can line up a bit straighter than that. I did really like his top and his come out. He might have been falling back a little bit on the platform, which encourages going over. It's kind of hard to control that come out when you're moving backwards like that, but a
52.0.
decent dive for him there.
52.2.
The technique was well executed on this
0,
one, which was
6.5.
beautiful.
I do know that he is working on harder dives for this event, so going back to the easier dives during this event, but really working forward to harder DD dives.
And there's a few divers in this final that, you know, are coming up. They're young, and there's plenty of space for them to learn new, harder dives.
Most of them are young.
Samuel is one of them. So is Claude Olivier here, also doing a back 2.5 pike.
205B with 2.9 difficulty.
See the difficulty on this relatively physically easy dive for the men is to control, but you really have to give that full energy off the tower to create that momentum. A little bit slow in the rotation.
And sometimes it is hard to gauge that control. It's hard to really get yourself to give it your all when you know it's an easy dive and you have adrenaline. So really gauging that and being super precise with it is what you have to do on these easier quote-unquote dives.
Because that adrenaline in competition is really, really hard to reproduce in training. You
Very hard. I remember talking about that with you before I went to the Olympics because you're like, you're not going to be able to reproduce it, but we can do our best to try and, you know, put your mind there. But nothing compares.
Nothing compares to the real thing, for sure. Ciro Maya now. His second dive is a forward 3.5, pike position, 3.0 degree of difficulty.
107B.
Well done.
Very, very good. It's a very good dive for Ciro.
Shout out to the 22 million watchers right now.
You can hear his friends are happy with that.
Absolutely.
Coach looks happy too.
I would something to improve on here is just having a little bit of a tighter pike position. Aaron Ziver really happy with this one. He managed to really control that come out from the pike and land vertically.
And 8.0.
67.50 for the dive.
One judge agreed to have
Luke Gertzen now, just 15 years of age.
Whoa, 15 years
He'll be
old.
doing a reverse 2.5 somersaults, tuck position.
305C, 2.8 difficulty. Only 15 years old.
Oh, wow.
Gorgeous.
That was a beautiful dive.
Yeah.
Another diver that I really love to watch, and he's so precise. He might not have the highest DD, but he's always super precise with his technique.
But like I said before, he's 15 years old, plenty of time to keep going into that learning curve and learning new dives, harder dives. But right now, 8.5s, 9s, a 9.5 for this one.
75 points on a reverse 2.5 is a very good score.
Worked out very well. Pressure's on now for Arnaud Corbeil. Forward 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position.
107C with 2.7 difficulty.
Well done.
Another good dive.
Well done.
Something on these dives, the front dives, the approach is something that's super important. You gotta run to the end of the tower, which is sometimes a little bit scary. And he needs to get a really good up and down position before he jumps, just to get that trajectory right for the entry.
And I believe the only reason his feet rolled over a little bit is because he jumped a little bit far out from the platform.
8.0, 7.5.
That makes it just harder to stop the rotation, but a good dive for Arnaud Corbeil. Big dive coming up here for Benjamin Tessier. Reverse 3.5 somersaults, tuck position, 3.4 degree of difficulty.
307C diving code.
Oh! And he's bringing the heat.
I was just going to say exactly that. Higher degree of difficulty. This is a perfect time to apply pressure on the next divers. Great jump in the air, tight tuck position. Knows exactly where he is in the air. Beautiful entry in the water.
Beautiful technically and so strong, and it's really nice to see him back and competing and healthy.
8.5,
And on the 10 meter,
9.0.
it's been a while that he's been out, and he's been super hungry for competition, so I think he's getting that hunger filled right now.
And I believe you told me before the event started, off the air, that if he turns the heat on like he just did,
Oh yeah,
he can shuffle the cards in this event, definitely.
he definitely can. So the next two dives,
109C,
very interesting dives.
3.7 difficulty.
Nathan Zombo-Murray, another huge dive here. The forward 4.5 somersaults tuck.
Wow. He must do good here.
Just a little bit missing. We've seen him do this dive for 10s before.
This is generally a competition dive for him. The adrenaline helps with this dive for sure. Coming a little bit short, but fitting 4.5 rotations. I mean, You can probably relate to how this feels. It's not an easy dive to do.
I was never great at this one, to be honest.
More of those vertical
But what I
lines.
love to see from Nathan is he
3.25,
improved the tuck
7.5,
position, being tighter and
7.0.
tighter, nice pointed feet in it. The judges will see that. The high degree of difficulty helps to bring him just over 83 points on this one. Here comes Rylan now, and guess what? He has a 4.5 in him as well. 3.7 degree of difficulty, one of the biggest dives in this event.
Gorgeous. And I've seen these two, Nathan and Rylan, go back-to-back in international competitions and just shred this dive. It's a very good competition dive for both of them. And Rylan really knows how to tune into his competition mode.
I think he means business here tonight or this
does.
afternoon
He
for
as
the
well
national. Oh
has
yeah,
been coming back from an injury, so it's
Right.
really nice to see him back and healthy and strong and shredding it, as he would say.
over
That's
100
great job.
points on this dive, 101.75 to be precise. And the great news for Canadian diving is that Rylan and Nathan
We'll
are
have to watch
synchronized
on
diving partners, so
for
that means
Rylan Waynes.
all kinds of great possibilities at the international level for really great results.
They're already
For
medalists
Rylan
at the
Waynes, we
World
are going
Championships
to
together,
watch
which is
out for him because
something
he
we don't see
can
very
beat the
often in
Chinese.
men's 10 meter synchro in
Probably.
Canada, so they're making
If he
some
needs
moves
just
and
to be more
shining on-
consistent so that he can be consistent with his ranking. Now we are now entering the third rounds of this 10 meters platform dive.
Not too far
Please do
behind.
not forget to subscribe, like, and share.
Samuel
And
Talbot
next week we'll
will be
start
doing a back
the
arm
World
stand,
Championship
double
in Doha,
somersaults
Qatar.
with a half twist. The key thing to do here, right off the start of the dive, is to show control in the arm stand. Something you chose not to do in your list of dives, Kaylee?
For a reason.
Okay.
Adrenaline.
Well done.
Good dive for him. It's a relatively easy dive for him. I know that they'll be working on harder DD dives with this arm stand, but again, technique is very important with this.
And on the previous replay, even in this one, you could see that the body's kind of tilted a little bit to the side. The judges will see that and deduct. But it is quite the difficulty in the back arm stand twisting dives to get your body completely straight on. Claude Olivier Lisée-Coder from the Camo Diving Club. He'll be doing a forward 3.5 somersaults tuck position.
107C and 2.7 difficulty.
Oh,
Really strong jump on the top there. Just almost a bit too much space for him in that tuck position.
Yeah.
he's going to have to do this in the pike position anytime soon now.
Still very elegant in the air, but you can see that he's moving forward as well quite a lot. He got quite a bit of distance on that approach, which doesn't necessarily help on that trajectory of the entry.
Bit of a judgment mistake here, holding on to that tuck
4.5, 4.0.
a bit too long. Up next, Zero has an inward 3.5 somersaults tuck, 3.2 degree of difficulty. Putting in his harder dives in his list.
407C with difficulty of 3.2.
A little
Excellent.
hesitation at the end there.
A little bit of holding back, not necessarily attacking the water, kind of letting a landing instead of an entry for him there. He could just reach his arms a little bit more forward on that entry instead of tightening his shoulders. I know how that feels, and it's not a great feeling, but technically still a decent dive for him, just not the entry he was looking for.
And coming out of that tuck
Entry
position, you really
can,
have,
work
there's
on the
no
descent.
time to waste there and be
2.8,
confident
5.5,
to stretch out your
4.5,
body
6.5,
fully.
5.0.
All right. Moving on to the next. Luke Gertson He'll be doing a back 2.5 pike position, coming off a really strong dive in the previous round.
$205B, 2.9 difficulty.
Wow. Oh, on a roll.
You can see him in the air. He spots so well. He knows exactly where he is and exactly where to place his feet.
Important to say, the divers keep their eyes open, get that head, making sure to spot the water 1-2 times here, knows exactly where to line up the feet.
And such tight legs and toes. And you can see a little dance there. He's happy with that one. I would be too.
8.5 on the dive for a total of 73.95. Might as well have a little fun with it,
May
no?
as well.
You're having a good time. Arnaud Corbeil now, big dive for him. That's an upgrade from the past seasons.
Very new dive for him.
The back 3.5
207C.
somersaults tuck, 3.3 degree of difficulty.
207C, diving coach. Oh, tapin ko yung swings. Pati na pula doon. Injury. Wow.
Just holding back a little bit too much, I think. It's not an easy dive to learn how to compete.
And right off the top, you could see he didn't quite manage to get his arms back enough right here to create that momentum.
And once you don't get that momentum on the top, honestly, it's just a waiting game until you get to the water. You can do your best to try and do technique, and
39.6,
sometimes it helps and
4.0,
pays off. But
3.5.
really, if you don't get that momentum and that
4.5.
connection into your tuck, it's a really hard dive to manage.
Fine, bro.
You could see here, Arnaud was disappointed with this one. Up next, Benjamin Tessier. Having a great event so far with a forward 3.5 pike position.
107B.
Beautiful.
It's a good dive for him. I think he went a little bit over on that entry. He could have stopped it a little bit more and lined up a little bit shorter for me. Overall, a good dive. You can tell he doesn't take very much time before going. He's going straight to it. So
I appreciate that. I never took very much time not to get lost in my thoughts.
Me neither.
Before
Yeah.
getting going. 72 once again, very steady, no big mistakes here, but
Yes, 8.0, 8.5.
definitely little details to work on if he hopes to be competing at the highest levels. And I know it's going to come eventually.
Yeah. He's the future of content.
Nathan Zombor-Murray now with a back 3.5 somersaults tuck position. Wants to turn the heat up like Rylan has been doing. And there's an opportunity.
207C, 3.3 difficulty.
Oh, a little extra work at the end here.
that's a really good top and a really strong kick. But you could see that once he kicked, he kind of hesitated.
It's like he second guessed
He
if he was at
second-guessed.
the right spot.
I know he really didn't want to go short on that one. I can tell that from the kick. The judges still really liked the technique, but unfortunately, that little wobble and hesitation caused him to go over.
79.2,
Still a decent
8.0,
score for him, though.
7.5.
Judges giving him a bit of a chance here. Coming up now,
This is the future of
Rylan
diving.
Weens with a reverse 3.5 somersaults in the tuck position, 3.4 degree of difficulty.
307C, diving code. He can be a contender in the world
Has been
championship.
almost flawless so far.
He just needs to be consistent.
Nicely done. He set the bar so high in the previous 2 rounds.
This is a really good dive still. Lining up a little bit short, I saw a little bit of a loss of power on the top for me compared to what I usually see him get into the connection, but technically a very, very strong dive.
Absolutely, you're right, because he didn't defer from the technique. He didn't try too hard to go get that vertical. Really breaking down every movement one at a time. Not a big mistake so far for Rylan Weeds. Still in the lead. Nathan Zombo-Murray in second. Benjamin Tessier in third. So far, the same standing as the final result in the preliminaries this morning. Will it stick?
Rylan Waynes needs to be consistent because he can be a good contender for World Championship 2024 and also Olympics.
A forward 3.5 somersaults in the pike position coming up.
We are now on the round 4.
Fourth round kicking off now. .0 degree of difficulty. Good dive.
Good dive. It's really
A little
awesome.
too eager on that pike save on the bottom. Trying to rip that dive with a little bit too much rotation can sometimes cause the water to kind of explode out the back.
And we just saw here, he keeps his head in. You really have to line up your eyes towards the water. As long as your head
4.0,
is going towards
6.0, 6.5,
the vertical,
5.0.
you'll get it. But now keeping your head in keeps the body rolling.
And being patient is something you got to learn with this dive, especially when you're spinning fast or not used to spinning the way that you are in the competition. You got to really be aggressive on that lineup and be patient with it.
305C, 2.8 difficulty.
All
Reverse 2 in
smiles
1
for
half
Claude
somersault.
Olivier and his fourth dive. Will be a reverse 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position.
Sorry that I need to speak here because YouTube requires it. Thank you very much. Do not forget to subscribe, like, and share. Yeah,
Good dive.
fine.
A little too much in the rotation here. Only 2.5 flips to go. Really have to be precise in that come out.
It's kicking a little bit high, which leads you to go over. So
No way to stop it
no
from
way
there.
to stop it once you kick a bit late.
56.0.
56 points.
Without Oliver Lisi Koderi, he can,
Not a big mistake here.
can be a good diver.
Ciro Meya coming up. His next dive will be a back 2.5 pike, 2.9 degree of difficulty.
Looks like an ancient decent.
I've seen him do this dive really well.
205B, 2.9 difficulty, back to in
Another
1/2
diver who
somersault.
can probably upgrade this dive soon, being the jumper and the spinner that he is. But for now, we
No, I didn't try it,
some
Meja.
technique.
I haven't.
Oh, beautiful.
Awesome,
Gorgeous.
awesome.
Not
After
much to
this
pick
10
apart
meters
with that
platform,
one.
we
There's not
are
much to
going
say.
end
You're
the live,
absolutely
then we
right,
are going
Kaylee.
to watch the 3 meters
Great jump in the air,
springboard
perfect
of
distance from the platform, knows
championship.
exactly where he is in the air, a few degrees short from the vertical, but beautiful entry in the water. 7.5 up to 8 on the dive.
8.0, 7.5, 8.0.
Here comes Luke Gertzen now. And his next one will be a back arm stand double somersault in the pike position.
Sure. After the 10 meters, we are going to watch the 3 meters springboard. We still have maybe 40 minutes of this competition to finish. No problem. We are going to watch the 3 meters.
It's to show control here.
We will be uploading also the China diving championship.
Oh, well done.
Beautiful. Again, the precision.
Precision, not much rotation to create here, but he knows exactly where he is. He's happy with the dive.
You have a lot of time, a lot of height in the time in the air to deal with not that many rotations, so control is really, really important.
And he comes out of the pike position literally almost with his feet towards the water. So much effort to keep the stomach muscles activated so the legs follow the body. He did that very well.
We're going to be seeing a few different variations of an arm stand in this round, which will be kind of cool to see and compare.
But for now, Arnaud
Fantastic.
Corbeil
Welcome,
has the
welcome.
back 2.5, 1.5 twist
We will do that.
in the pike position coming up.
5-2, 5-3B, 3.2 difficulty. We still have 2 rounds to go before the 3-meter springboard.
There was a bit of energy missing on this one for me.
He could use a little bit more energy coming from his feet and flicking up and coming into that twist. You need to have really, really tight core going into that twist, and makes it a bit
tight
easier to
core
get
needed.
into that pike and add some rotation. So you're just missing a bit of power on that one.
Still very young. Can
And I
do
remember
more.
Arnaud from last year. I
59.2,
think he's
6.0,
grown quite a bit since then,
6.5.
and that creates quite a bit of challenges to get used to the new body, the new weight to carry over.
You know, all these little boys are turning into men, like before your eyes.
It's happening as we
It's
The
speak.
next
happening.
to win the future of Canada.
There's
in
another
diving.
man, Benjamin Tessier, with the back arm stand, triple somersaults, tuck position.
6-2,
Different
6C,
variation, like you said, Kaylee.
3.3 difficulty. This man is just 15 years of age.
A tiny little mistake at the end here.
Not quite getting his arms up on that entry. He was aggressive with the come out, but when you don't get your arms really behind your ears on that entry and you're lining up tad short, it's really hard to connect with that entry and really draw yourself into the water.
The one thing I really appreciate about his diving is the attention he pays to the pointed feet, the straight legs.
He's got beautiful lines.
Everything
Yeah.
about his diving is elegant to watch. All right. Up next, Nathan Zomber Murray with the back arm stand double somersaults, 1.5 twist.
Six
Olympic
2, 4,
rings
3D,
tattooed on his arm.
difficulty of 3.2.
Oh,
Gorgeous.
that was a beautifully executed dive.
Not much wrong with that one. This is a really, really great and consistent dive for Nathan.
And not many divers in this dive can demonstrate jumping from your arms, and that's exactly what we saw. Perfect distance from the tower as well.
And we know the judges really appreciate that kip, as we call it, the jump off the tower
Right.
with the arms. When people fall, they generally don't love it as much, so he does this really, really good.
8.5, all the judges agree
8.5s all around for Nathan.
to that. Unified scores.
And coming up, last dive of this round, it's Rylan Weens. Also a back arm stand, double somersaults, this time with 2.5 twists. Another big dive here, 3.6 degree of difficulty.
Wow. 3.6 difficulty. 6245D.
Oh! That is such a difficult dive.
And he went
I've never
over.
done it, but you really have to create that rotation, and the twist makes it really hard to control at the end. Gets it going,
leg
keeps his
twisting
legs
also.
together.
Reduction for the
So a really good dive. The judges really liked it. Very, very good technically, and like you said, it's a really hard dive to
8.2,
control and
8.5,
get as much
8.0,
rotation and
7.5.
twisting as you need while still being in control of it. So good on Rylan on that one.
A little bit past the vertical. Not too much damage here. Rylan Weens still in the lead. Comfortably with about 30 points ahead. Nathan Zombor
We will see why Rylan Waynes become here the silver medal. What is it? But I believe Rylan Waynes can be the future of Canada
Two
in
more rounds
diving.
to go
He
in
can
this
have
men's 10
he
meter
can be a medal
final.
contender for Olympics and World Championship this month.
Samuel Talbot will be doing a reverse 2.5 somersaults in the tuck position.
305C, 2.8 difficulty. Wow.
Wow.
Beautiful entry from Sam. This is what I was talking about at the beginning.
Full
Everybody in
entry
here can
and
rip
very
their
clean
dives, and
dive.
this is what I love to see.
So high up in the air. The jump is straight up,
We are now in the
controls
fifth
that
round of the
rotation
dive.
perfectly, knows exactly where to come out of that tuck position. Very vertical.
He'll be happy
7.2.
with that one.
Absolutely. Aaron Desiver, the coach, not much to say on this one. Claude Olivier now. He'll be doing a forward arm stand, double somersault, pike position. We also see different variations of ways to go up in the arm stand.
2.4 difficulty.
Everyone has their preference.
This is the hardest one, the pike.
I don't agree.
Oh, you don't? Okay.
No.
Wow. Oh.
Ah,
Fortunately, a bit of energy missing here to complete the dive.
you can see underwater he's not very happy with that. This is
Yeah.
a technically easy dive, but when
If
you
you
have
can
adrenaline,
just
like
do
I said
more,
before, it's really
fast
hard to gauge
rotation.
how much power you want to give because you don't want to overdo it too much. But unfortunately, this one he
Yeah.
didn't give enough energy and came out a little bit too early.
30.0
And like Devin's telling him, lifting up his chest going for the entry, which causes
Yeah.
you to go really, really short.
for the end.
One more round to go for Claude Olivier and trying to make it up here. Up next is Ciro with back arm stand, double somersault with 1.5 twist.
If you want to follow them, 6243D, 3.2 difficulty, Cyro Machia.
Now we have a few seconds. Why would you disagree that the
If you
piking
want
way
to
of
follow
going
them, you
up in
can
the
check
arm
their
stand is the
Instagram.
hardest one?
They have
I
that,
find it more controlled for me
socials.
personally, even though I
You
don't
want to
do arm
follow
stands
these
anymore.
divers.
Straddle
Okay.
was my second guess, and then the kick up is the last for me because there's
Please
a
do
lot
not
more
forget to
momentum coming
subscribe.
up.
Thank you very
Which
much.
the amazing Roselyne Filion did really well.
Really, really well. And that was a beautiful dive from Ciro. He's been really consistent this event. I think he's going to be really, really happy and pleased with that one. Another one that has a lot of control.
And one of the difficulties in this one is to keep your legs really, really tight together in the twist. And Ciro did that perfectly here.
He's another one with
76.8,
beautiful lines, beautiful
8.0,
legs and toes, and
7.5,
that attention to
7.5.
detail.
76.80 on the dive.
May I add that he's relatively new to diving. He's only been diving for 4 or 5 years, so having a list like this is really, really impressive, and being at this caliber is really incredible.
And he's improving. If we
Every
compare
day.
it to the last nationals that happened in Toronto,
Yep.
things are moving forward. Luke Gertsen now with a forward 3.5 somersaults, tuck position.
107C, 2.7 difficulty.
You'll be happy with this one.
So much control, so much space for this dive, really easy for him to manage. Another one that he's really, really precise on. He's been very precise with all of his dives so far.
And I'm impressed at the fact that he jumped a little bit far out from the platform, but really managed to find that vertical
But you
here.
can see him look at the water when he comes out. He has a lot of time, and you can kind of get a lot of time relatively.
7.5,
You can gauge where he wants to
8.5,
point his hands and
8.0.
keeps looking at the water to manage. And another dance move for him. He's really happy.
Dancing is good. Arnaud Corbeil now with the back arm stand double somersault, pike position. .8 degree of difficulty. I'm sure it's only a matter of time for him to upgrade
624B.
to a more difficult dive.
Hi, Dan Santos.
Oh,
After
beautiful
this, we're going
entry.
to watch the
Well executed on the
3 meters
entry.
springboard finals. Of
I would
the
like to see a bit more finesse in his toes and his
winter,
legs on the top,
Canada
especially
winter
in his
diving
handstand and
camp.
getting into that pike. It is a little bit scary, you know, getting into that pike because he has long legs. He
Wow.
doesn't want to clip his toes on the tower.
Where are you from?
But I think
Lida
he could
and
afford a
Dan?
little bit more pointed toes. It would pay off quite
63.0,
well for him.
7.5,
And these little details about the
8.0,
finesse, these are things that
7.0.
come with time. I
Yeah.
remember when I was a kid, my toes weren't pointed in the tuck position, but at one point you just have to
Awesome,
make sure you
awesome.
think about it
Yeah.
and change it, right?
I
that
do-
will
I
come.
do swimming also. They haven't do diving. but
Benjamin
they do swimming.
Tessier now with a back 3.5 somersaults, tuck position. Doesn't waste any time on the
207C.
tower.
Benjamin Teaser.
Beautiful.
I guess a little bit
Good
of
dive
an
for
arc.
him. This is generally a very consistent dive for him.
Yeah.
I think he'll be happy, but I know that he's gonna
USA.
pick it apart a little bit, as I will right now. He's my training buddy,
You're
so
not
I can do it.
sleeping, bro.
He lifts
You
his
can't
chest
sleep.
a little bit and trying to pull himself
Yeah,
into that entry
staying
because I think
awake
he
at
was gonna
night,
feel a
right?
little short on that. By pulling into that entry and arching a bit, causes a bit more splash and that
Yeah,
disconnection
it's
with the
1
water.
AM there.
But still a good dive for him, 75 points.
Fine then, Santos.
Little disappointed.
If he shows a little bit of disappointment with a
there
75
is a
point
World
dive, it means the
Championship
potential is
happening
great
next
Yeah,
week,
imagine.
starting
for what
February
could come.
3,
All
for 1
positive
meter
things.
springboard qualifications.
Reverse 3.5 somersaults, tuck position for Nathan.
307C.
Big dive for him. He's been working on consistency with this one. Another one of my training buddies.
That hesitation at the end is going to cost him quite a few points.
And that is one of the mistakes he's been trying to work on. I know he's really trying to be aggressive on that come out, but unfortunately the top wasn't quite as strong as he needs it to be into that connection, which leads him to drop a little bit, even regardless of how tight he kicks.
And I'm glad you mentioned the kick, the come out of the tuck
6.3,
position. He breaks
6.5
down every single
difficult.
movement, makes sure he goes through every step.
He will be disappointed with that one.
All right. Moving on to Rylan Weens now. And his 5th round dive is a back 3.5 somersaults, tuck position. Rylan having a great event so far.
207C, 3.3 difficulty. Rylan Waynes.
Oh, tiny mistake from him as well.
That's a
his
miss for
mistake.
Rylan.
I think
I
this
felt
is the
like he
reason
held
why
back on the top.
It looked like it from my eyes too,
ranking that
Kaylee.
low.
And he's still aggressive on the come out, which is really, really good and wonderful to see in a consistent diver that you never change your
There's an
technique. But
arcing
unfortunately, he
percentage.
could have
I'm more into
afforded a little
swimming
bit of a change and
really on
waiting a
diving.
little bit longer in the kick
Okay
out.
then.
But such a good, solid kick out. If
That's
you don't
good.
have the right speed, the right
54.45.
momentum, then
Yeah,
everything
but
stops
swimming
But if,
literally
if
at the
that
moment.
top, if that top was, you know,
there
as
is a
strong as he can do it, it would have
championship
dropped.
because it's World
It would've went
Championship
in,
next
but-
week.
Okay. Rylan
But-
still in the lead in this one. Nathan
But we
Zombo
cannot do
Murray
live in the World
still in
Championship
second.
because
Benjamin in
it's
third.
copyrighted. But
One
you can
more
check
round to
there.
go. The
World
guys want
Aquatic,
to finish off
I will be
the
posting
event
here.
the strongest way possible.
I will be posting here all of the links in our community for what to watch the live of World Championship, World Aquatic Championship
February of next
2024.
year.
We are now on
An
the
Olympic
6th
year, I
round.
should remind everyone.
Yay! Super exciting. Doha is also the last opportunity to
Did
open
you just
spot.
break a sweat because I mentioned
my
the Olympics?
hands are clammy.
All right, Samuel Talbot, his last dive, a back 2.5, 1.5 twist in the pike position.
5253B, 3.2
Has been
difficulty.
very consistent throughout this event.
Welcome, Mida. Oh,
A similar
but
mistake we
bit
saw
arc,
earlier,
right?
not enough power on the top and not really enough flick with the feet. I also saw him lift his head a little bit on the top there, which also kind of disconnects some
We
of the
will try
power.
It's a
to
bit
post here
counterproductive if
you
in
wanna
our
create that
community the
rotation.
links on
Yeah.
how to watch the live of World Championship 2024. Doha,
bit of a
happening
miss
on
for Sam
Doha.
on this
February
one.
3 is the start of preliminary ops 1 meter springboard.
That's all right. He'll know exactly what to work on looking ahead.
Yeah, another young athlete with a lot of time. This is great experience, again, being up there with Olympians.
Can be the champion one day.
Claude-Olivier Lisée-Coder. He'll end the event with his last dive, which is a back 2.5 with a half twist. Pike position.
Very young diver.
Very tricky, this one. Not much twisting, not much rotation, so everything has to be well controlled.
Again, a beautiful dive from him. Still missing a bit of power.
You need to go all out, especially on the last dive.
And it's one of the hardest things, even for me, it's giving
50.7.
everything on my top because sometimes I'm scared of overdoing it. But I'd rather
7.0,
overdo it on the top and
6.5.
compensate a little bit on the bottom and figure out, you know, you can adjust. If you don't give
Right.
it everything, you can't do those little adjustments that you need to do.
And then you'll know you gave it all
Yeah,
you had.
no regrets.
Ciro Maya now, his last dive, a back 1.5 with 3.5 twists. And with the beautiful line that he's capable of doing,
This is one of my favorite dives to watch him do.
it will be a pretty dive to watch indeed.
Yeah.
Well done.
Really
Well
pretty
done.
dive. Unfortunately, a little bit over-rotated, but like just that separation, the jump right into the twist. Super, super straight twist position. Those arms are just squeezed to his head. And this is a dive you need to really control on the top. This is one you do not want to rotate on. It's a good dive for him.
Great potential for the
59.4,
future.
6.0, 6.5.
Nicely done for
5.0,
Ciro here today.
5.5.
Up next,
Speaking of
Luke
diving,
Gertzen.
are you-
His last dive will be an inward 2.5 in the tuck position.
Yeah,
2.5
I'll be
degree
reading
of
your comment
difficulty.
later, bro, during the break.
I'm quite confident that it's in the works that he'll be able to add a flip to this dive.
Oh, okay.
Control was key on this one,
Yeah.
that is for sure.
Very, very simple dive for him. Basically a compulsory for him. And you can tell that, you know, he knows he has a lot of power. So I can see him push off the tower a little bit backwards and kind of cut down his jump just
Right.
to avoid overdoing it.
Phil Johnson.
Managed it really well.
That's
8,
interesting.
7.5s.
But overall, a really good event. Well, there you
Yeah.
go. Thank you, Luke.
Thank you.
Great performance today.
Love the dance moves.
Just
Johnson.
over 400
We can
points, which is
check
a
his
good
Instagram.
mark to achieve.
Especially with his DD.
Right, very low degree of difficulty in the list. Just shows that he had a great day at the office. Arnaud
305
Corbeil
C,
now, his last dive will be a
2.8
reverse
difficulty.
2.5 in the tuck position. Again, a little bit of hesitation.
I didn't see him attack the top as much as I would have liked to.
Comes out of that rotation quite early as well.
And reaches his arms a little early, which if you don't reach at the right time and you don't get them all the way back, you're not going to glide through the water and hit it right on.
All right, some work to
Johnson,
do for
he's
Arnaud.
here.
He looks like he knows it as
16
well.
weeks recovery.
There's always something to learn. Benjamin Tessier now with a monster dive, the back 2.5,
Johnson
2.5
is,
twist, pike position, 3.6 degree of difficulty.
A recent addition to
moving
his
a dive
list.
now.
Doesn't take any time off the tower.
Oh,
Phil Johnson
tiny
is
bit missing
practicing
at the end.
dive now.
I find it a little bit cut off on the top. Not necessarily getting the jump and extension that we would want to see off the platform. Rushing
Yes.
into that
I
twist,
can
which
see in his
is really
Instagram,
hard not to
screenshot.
do when you're doing this dive.
Well, I competed that dive for a while, and it's physically extremely hard, but you have to really make sure you spend every moment on
This is the
every
next
movement to
Yeah.
create the
Benjamin
height,
Pacer.
the speed,
He will be the
in the
next
rotation and in the twist.
And considering it's a new addition, I can
Star
see.
of
I mean, I've seen him do it better than this, but
internationally, I can see.
competition with new dives is never easy. So
And
kudos
there's
to
only
him.
one way to get used to it is to compete the dive.
Yeah.
So good on him for doing that.
As of now,
Nathan Zombor Murray now, his
and
last dive will be a
Ryland
back
Waynes.
2.5, 1.5 twist.
And ending on a dive that he's
5253
pretty
B,
consistent and
3.2
comfortable with.
difficulty.
Relatively easy for him.
Wow.
Well done.
Well
Strong
done
finish for Nathan.
here.
Good
think-
way to end the event.
I think that's the important part for
Yeah.
him at this point. He knows he can do better. some things to work on before he gets to next year and the Olympics coming up. I can see in his demeanor also that he wants a little bit more out of this performance. 76.80.
He improved his score though from prelims, which
If
is
you want me
a
to
good step to go in.
read your message,
But I love to see the guy's character,
Yeah,
wanting
exactly.
more.
Yep.
Last dive of these national championships here. Rylan Weens back 2.5 twist in the pike position.
Yes, Alan wins. He should do great here. Or maybe this gonna be the... Oh, that's it.
Like you said, it's not an easy dive to do.
Oh, it's not.
And when the gas
This
is
is
running
the
low, you
reason
really gotta
why
dig deep. And he knows that he missed that. Not super happy with it, but the rest of his dives were really consistent. This is a high degree of difficulty dive, so
leg separation,
even though
deviation on
scores
the
aren't gonna be super high, that DD might help him a bit
this
more.
is the reason why he
But once
didn't
again,
get the gold.
I could see in the
4.0.
reaction,
This is the only dive.
he's not
This is the
pleased
reason.
with the end result of this competition.
At the
That
very
dive just
end,
dropped him
you
into
get
second
the
place.
scores drop.
But the good news is that the boys
We
have
now,
their
see
work
now,
cut out for them leading
yeah,
up to next
we can see
year.
now.
The World Championships coming up and the Olympics. Nathan Zombo-Murray gets the gold on the last dive. Rylan Weens in second. Benjamin Tessier, who's heating up and creating that competition for the future.
Yeah. Benjamin Taser can be a great diver. I can see him. I can feel. Rylan Waynes, he needs to be consistent to achieve the gold medal for the Olympics and World Championship. We will gonna see the awarding. After this, we are going to put turn off the live and we are going to watch the 3-meter springboard.
Points from Cabo, Benjamin Tessier.
Benjamin Tessier. We're going to watch a 3-meter springboard.
Your silver medalist with 472.60 points from Saskatoon, Ryland Weeds.
Great job, Rylan Waynes. We're just going to have some rest of 5 to 10 minutes.
Points
then
ahead
we'll be
with
back on live after this.
478.35 points. Your gold medalist, your national champion from Point Claire Dive Club, Nathan Zombo-Murray.
Yes, Nathan Zombo-Murray, the gold medalist here.
Diving fans, one more round of applause for your men's 10-meter platform championship finalists.
So again, we are going to have a rest after the awarding, maybe 5 to 10 minutes, then we're gonna watch a 3-meter springboard finals. We will take a rest now. After let's watch their let's watch close the divers first. Rylan Wayne should be the gold here. He just have some mistakes. Okay, gonna end the live and please be back after 5 to 10 minutes. Okay, we just gonna have some rest and we are going to watch the 3 meters springboard final.